you are already floating. Not upon the gentle tides of sleep, not just yet, but drifting upon a sea of memory and something quieter, something keening, just at the edge of what the mind wakes to hear. Listen, there are places in the world where names mean nothing, where salt wind shapes the world more than any line on a map. But somewhere between the pastel lights of Miami, the wind-battered outcrop that is Bermuda, and the lush hush of San Juan, lies a shape that isn't a shape at all. They call it the Bermuda Triangle. For more than a century, this stretch of ocean has been whispered about, a region where normality folds in on itself, where ships simply do not arrive, and planes vanish as if erased by an unseen hand. The stories are measured not only in the lives that were lost, but in the quiet terror of what was never found. Consider December 5th, 1945, a date etched quietly into naval history, though blurred by salt and silence. 5 Avenger bombers, Flight 19, set out for a simple training run. The radio crackles. The sky is clear but for a drifting haze. And yet, from the microphones, distress spirals outward. Compass is gone. We seem to be lost. The voices grow fainter, static swelling, in time with the growing uncertainty. And then, only the hush of an empty frequency, as if the ocean had decided that day to hold its own secrets a little tighter. Or the USS Cyclops, her decks heavy with manganese ore and a crew of over 300, steaming north through blue water in March 1918. Not a flare, not a final transmission. She faded from all record, as if pulled below by invisible hands. All those names, all those lives, cradled somewhere beneath the rolling swells. Commercial planes, sleek and modern, their dark shapes hugging the clouds, disappear mid-flight, over tranquil waters, leaving nothing but soft questions that drift with the tide. Could it be mere coincidence? Is there truly a boundary in the sea, a triangle drawn by fear, accidents, and uncharted chance? Or did a cartographer's accidental flourish become a portal the world cannot quite close? This evening, even as you tuck yourself deeper into warmth and peace, imagine the faint pattern connecting Miami, Bermuda, and San Juan. A triangle traced not by fact, but by longing to understand. Let the rhythm of your breathing echo the slow pulse of the tides as I guide you through story and science, into the heart of the triangle itself. Will we discover a new truth, or simply more wonder? Tonight, let the waves carry us through memory, myth, and the magnetic mystery that has long haunted these seas. If you're ready, we'll slip beneath the stories, straight into the heart of vanishing. Close your eyes, if you wish, and picture the calm expanse of the Atlantic stretched before you, the subtle wash of moonlight caught in briny rolling curves. On these waters, stories gather like mist, soft at first, then impossible to ignore. The tale of disappearances within the Bermuda Triangle does not begin on any single day. Instead, it accumulates, a slow tide rising over centuries. The earliest records are whispers, vague reports from merchant ships and schooners in the 19th century. Crews go missing, logs are discovered half-finished, last positions scrawled. Desperately, sometimes a ship is found adrift, sails sun-bleached and ragged, provisions undisturbed. Its crew vanished as if stepping off the world's edge. The Carol Deering, a 5-masted schooner, ran aground in 1921 off the coast of North Carolina, becomes just such a mystery. Her crew gone, a meal left untouched, the ship's logbook missing, her story swallowed by the haze as maritime. Travel advanced, its mysteries did not recede. The steamship USS Cyclops, nearly 550 feet long and laden with ore, departed from Barbados in March 1918, destined for Baltimore. Her course was regular, her crew seasoned, yet the ocean took her completely. Over 300 men faded into the silence, leaving behind families, speculation, and a wound in naval memory that never truly closed. Then came the era of flight. It is here the disappearances become spectral echoes, modern voices snatched by the winds. In 1945, Flight 19, 5 Avenger bombers, carrying 14 men, lifted from Fort Lauderdale for what should have been a routine navigation exercise. The first sign of strangeness was confusion. "We can't tell where we are," a young pilot reported. "Everything is wrong. Strange. Even the ocean doesn't look as it should." The radio static deepened, their transmissions growing frayed, urgency blending with awe. Despite a rescue mission sent in haste, neither the flight nor its would-be saviors were ever seen again. Nor are these stories relics of a bygone era. Modern planes are drawn into this mystery, their instruments more advanced, their hulls engineered for storm and calm alike. In 2015, a cargo ship named El Faro set sail in the face of Hurricane Joaquin. She, too, became a name taken by the Triangle, all aboard perishing. Wreckage spread thin over depths unseen and rarely visited. The records of the Bermuda Triangle are piled high. For every headline, there are smaller stories of fishing boats failing to return, private pilots going silent, faint transmissions lost among the static. At times, there are no distress calls, no signals, only the ocean's indifferent memory. It is as if in this region, the act of vanishing has become routine. A rhythm as sure as the current, as regular as the tides, and as impenetrable as the depths themselves. Drift with me, just for a moment, into that particular afternoon in early December of 1945. The war is over. The world is poised between relief and rebuilding. Over the airstrip at Fort Lauderdale, a clear sky stretches wide, cloudless, the air thick with the salty breath of the Atlantic. Flight 19 assembles in the brittle sunlight. A group of 5 Navy Grumman, Avenger torpedo bombers, crews experienced, pilots trained and trusted. Their mission is simple, a routine 3-part training. Flight, a path well charted and often flown. There's a mechanical regularity to their preparation. Engines rumbling, checklists finalized. A moment as ordinary as any day's beginning. Yet, as the planes reach open water, something indefinable creeps in. The wind is light, the visibility perfect. The squadron's leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, soon radios in. The first hint of trouble. My compass is out. I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale. Static fuzzes the channel. Other pilots mirror the confusion, echoing Taylor's uncertainty. We're not sure where we are. Even the ocean doesn't look right. Minute by minute, anxiety seeps in, calm voices faintly tinged with dread. Their bearings are lost, navigation. Instruments unreliable. Radio towers on the coast strain to pick up their words, as if grasping at voices fading into shadow. The leader's transmissions become garbled, disjointed, as if wrapped in invisible storm clouds. We can't make out anything. We seem to be lost, drifting. Outside, the sun drifts lower on the horizon, painting the water with bruised colors. On shore, search parties scramble, tracking the increasingly desperate messages before the signal disappears altogether, leaving only the hush of static and the useless pulse of the beacons. A rescue plane carrying 13 men lifts off, and shockingly, it too vanishes with all hands. drawn into the whispering expanse. No fuel slicks, no debris, no solemn wrecks are found. For months, then years, only the smallest clues arise. Wild rumors, false sightings, pieces of nothing. Families hold on to hope. Military records stop at presumed lost. The fate of Flight 19 settles into legend, a mystery unsuited for normal explanation. Imagine yourself, even now, scanning the empty sky. Think of the endless blue, cloudless, silent, a sky that holds its secrets close. In this stillness, the voices of Flight 19 fade like ink on new parchment, returning at times in soft echoes only when the world is quiet enough to listen. Let us slide now beneath the noisy storms of aviation and into the timeless hush of maritime legend, where ships drift far from their appointed ports, and sometimes the only evidence of their passing is the soft slap of water against a hull, unmanned and unmoored first. Imagine the Carol adhering, a proud five-masted schooner that once carried cargo up and down the Atlantic coast. Her last journey, in the winter of 1921, seemed no different from dozens before. She sailed through restless seas, the wind filling her canvas wings, her crew settling into the old rhythms that keep men mindful and the ocean at bay. Then, unexpectedly, she was found run aground on Diamond Shoals, just off Cape Hatteras North Carolina, lifeboats gone, no human voice to call out warnings or recount what happened. In the galley, food sat set out for a meal, bread just begun to stale, as though the sailors had stood from supper mid-bite and stepped quietly away. Asterisk, ship's log and navigation equipment had vanished as well, leaving behind only questions. The rescue team that boarded her described an eerie calm, a vessel unscarred by battle or storm, yet entirely erased of its human presence to the south decades later. The yacht Witchcraft set out from Miami in 1967. She was a modest-sized cruiser, steered by two experienced sailors, celebrating the sight of city lights from the unique vantage of nearshore waters. At 9 p.m., a distress call, a strange, soft bump against the hull, no panic, only a request for routine towing, the kind done every night by the Coast Guard. Rescue crews arrived within sight of Miami's glowing skyline, but when they reached the provided coordinates, there was nothing. No yacht, no men, not even a floating scrap or the whisper of a hull striking channel marker. Divers later searched, but found only silence. In both cases, the ocean had not raged. There was no reported storm, no evidence of piracy or violence. Ships simply unspooled from their timelines, not torn, just quietly, almost respectfully. Removed, let these stories sink gently into you, like light fading beneath surface waves. The Carol adhering, her decks abandoned. The Witchcraft, quietly, plucked from calm waters. They are patterns in a larger tapestry, the rhythm of vanishings that define the Bermuda Triangle's strange allure. In recent times, the Bermuda Triangle's reputation has not faded with advances in technology. Newer vessels, built with modern steel and guided by precise digital navigation, remain as susceptible to the silent workings of the sea as their wooden ancestors. The case of El Faro in 2015 is a testament to this enduring riddle. El Faro was a 790-foot cargo ship, engineered for resilience, crewed by experienced mariners, and equipped with state-of-the-art communication and weather monitoring systems. Departing from Jacksonville, Florida, bound for Puerto Rico, she carried a heavy load and a healthy respect for the power of the Atlantic. Yet, as Hurricane Joaquin advanced, El Faro's route intersected with the periphery of the triangle. Weather conditions deteriorated rapidly, a hallmark of these waters, where ocean and sky conspire to alter their moods in moments. The last communications from El Faro were routine updates, but a growing concern surfaced as conditions intensified. "We're taking on water, lost the main propulsion unit," the captain reported, his voice steady, calm, yet unable to mask the seriousness of the predicament. When rescue teams reached the area, they encountered only disjointed traces, a battered lifeboat, a tangle of debris spread thin across miles of restless water. The ship itself had vanished to the depths, lying on the seabed more than 15,000 feet below, discovered only later by remote submersibles. The El Faro tragedy adds to the legacy of disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle, modern alongside the old, caught by the same currents and mysteries. Technology and preparedness did not guarantee safe passage. The ocean, indifferent and vast, remains an equalizer, quietly taking and hiding. The pattern of disappearance continues, linking generations and innovations in one slow, somber procession along the region's invisible borders. The triangle is not locked in the past. It is lived in the present, its shadow stretching quietly forward. Behind every vanished ship or aircraft in the Bermuda Triangle lies a network of voiceless pilots, sailors, and passengers whose ordinary days transformed, in the span of a few uncertain moments, into unsolvable puzzles, their final words relayed. Through radio static or written in hurried logbooks, weave an intimate portrait of lives changed by the region's peculiar gravity. Imagine, for a moment, a pilot flying the familiar route from Puerto Rico to Florida. The engine's hum is rhythmic, the horizon steady. The world, for now, feels manageable, but an unexpected sense of disorientation creeps in. "I don't know where we are," one transmission reported, the voice unhurried but laced with confusion. Those listening on the ground strain for answers, but receive only fading syllables, as if spoken from underwater or a far-off world. A fishing crew, weathered by years at sea, goes quiet a few hours after setting out. There are no distress signals, only the absence of their vessel, a silent space where laughter and radio chatter once echoed. Families wait, first with hope, then with a resignation that settles in as days turn into weeks. In their absence, the mundane details, half-finished meals, a sweater draped over a chair, paperwork left undone, become relics of ordinary lives, punctuated by extraordinary vanishing. Some stories come to us through recovered logs. A merchant ship's last entries record confusion over navigation, course corrections that only deepen the sense of being adrift rather than guiding the way home. The handwriting grows hurried, sometimes trailing into an unfinished line, a sentence, stopped abruptly. For each famous disappearance, there are countless lesser-known tales. Families mourning quietly, names added to maritime records but rarely spoken aloud. Communities by the sea grow experienced in loss, folding absence gently into their collective memory. Their stories form a subtle, constant rhythm, echoing the pulse of the ocean itself. So it is in the Bermuda Triangle, a human element as pervasive as the salt in the spray, lives intersecting with mystery and leaving behind not only questions, but a sense of unresolved expectancy, as if at any moment another echo could return. Sound in the open ocean becomes a fragile thing, trapped between the press of water and sky, voice and signal frail as the soft hush of wind on deck. Within the Bermuda Triangle, this frailty deepens. Stories of swift and complete silence, Calls cut short, radios static-filled and incomprehensible, become a defining motif. Imagine a ship's bridge, lit by muted gauges and the soft yellow of an old radio lamp. Voices drift, first in relaxed conversation, then growing short and tense. We're not sure of our position. Can you hear us? The land-based operator repeats 4 coordinates. The reply spills out, scattered, until finally there is nothing, only the faint blanket of static, broken on rare occasion by a scrap of words lost to distortion. More than once, participants in rescues have described an overwhelming quiet that settles in after the last transmission. For those onshore or aboard rescue craft, the absence of confirmed wreckage denies the finality of loss. The silence becomes a voice in itself, a continual question, cycling gently through those left behind. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect is that, in many cases, no SOS is ever sent. Ships disappear without distress, their paths growing faint and unfinished. Planes cease all communication in the midst of routine courses. The absence of concrete evidence, no oil slicks, no scattered holes, deepens the enigma. It is as if, beyond a certain line in the sea, even the faintest whispers are swallowed whole, in oral histories preserved by coastal communities. Old sailors and radio operators describe the onset of a profound hush when something has gone wrong. A dead channel where, just moments before, conversation flowed. The hush can extend for hours, days, or even longer, until hope is replaced by memory and the ocean resumes its ageless rhythm. This silence, somehow fuller than noise, enters the lore of the Bermuda Triangle, joining the pulse of disappearances. It is a presence as real as the missing vessels and the hearts left awake, listening for faint echoes that seldom come. Within the stories of the Bermuda Triangle, it is not only disappearance that leaves a mark, but a peculiar quality to the environment itself. Survivors and near misses speak of weather that transforms suddenly, a seamless sky breaking into mist, visibility falling away as if drawn like a curtain. Picture yourself on the deck of a ship, or in the cockpit of a small plane, enveloped by gentle, predictable weather. Then, with little warning, a dense, gleaming fog materializes. The world narrows to a handful of feet. Instruments begin to misbehave. Compasses swing or simply refuse to settle. The color of the light changes, acquiring a subtle, eerie hue. Shadows stretching along the waves, as if the very sun has forgotten how to shine normally. Some reports speak of sudden cloud banks that descend rapidly, so thick they mute the roar of engines or the slap of oars against the side of a boat. Bright darting lights, sometimes described as luminous orbs or brief flashes, have been whispered about, haunting the stories of those who returned. No evidence of a storm appears on weather charts. These conditions rise and vanish without a trace. These episodes often mark the moments just before or during disappearance. For some who survived, the transition back to clear weather happened just as abruptly. A return to sunshine, a horizon that reappears as if nothing had gone amiss, and yet leaving everyone aboard unsettled, touched by something indefinable. Mariners have long respected the sea's capacity for sudden, localized weather, where the air tastes different, denser, electrical. Yet within the boundaries of the triangle, these moments take on a weightier meaning. They are more frequent, more inexplicable, and linger longest in memory. The unfamiliar becomes a private landscape, threading fear and awe together in equal measure. This reality, unpredictable, transformative, never fully measurable, adds another subtle cadence to the complex, soothing rhythm of the Bermuda Triangle's history. It is not always what is lost, but how the world feels just before the loss that remains. Among the defining threads of Bermuda Triangle tales is the odd, often sudden failure of navigational instruments. These stories are told in quiet voices among pilots and sailors, passed down with a note of caution, as if the territory itself demands humble deference. The magnetic compass, so reliable in nearly all corners of the world, becomes capricious in the Triangle. There are reports, old and new, of compasses spinning without reason, needles that freeze despite gentle rocking, or point steadily to a direction that seems right. And yet ships and planes chart courses that lead steadfastly away from safety. For generations, instructional manuals from naval and flight academies have issued soft warnings about the magnetic variations of this region, noting the importance of double-checking every heading and reading. Even modern GPS and electronic guidance systems are not immune. Some accounts describe sophisticated screens that flicker, then fall dark. Others detail cases when all systems blink offline for minutes at a time. In the anxious hush that follows, operators are left to navigate by intuition, by the stars and shapes of clouds, an echo of a much older age. The phenomenon is not always dramatic. A seasoned sailor might notice, gradually, the ship's position drifting from the projected course, despite careful plotting. For aviators, a sense of gentle, persistent disorientation arises. Familiar landmarks fade, monitored metrics no longer make sense. Sometimes, when the instruments return to normal, there is the unsettling realization that precious fuel or time has been lost, eaten by the silent anomaly. A rare few described the effect as a slow warping of time itself, as if the hours lengthen, or contract within a fog or mist, and the sea or sky becomes a grey corridor between worlds. While physical evidence is scarce, the narratives repeat with regularity that is hard to ignore. In these moments, technological confidence dissolves. Even the best prepared find themselves, for a while, humbled, at the mercy of the old sea, its silent depths, and the enigma of geography. One of the quietest, yet most haunting, refrains of the Bermuda Triangle is the near absence of physical evidence. So many ships and aircraft vanish with startling finality, leaving behind no discernible wreckage, no flotsam or jetsam, and too often not even a trace of oil on the shimmering surface. Traditionally, when an accident occurs at sea, the ocean gives up signs on its own schedule: a splintered mast, a battered lifeboat, or scattered personal belongings, sometimes washing ashore days or weeks after a disaster. Yet, in the heart of the Triangle, these expected signals are frequently unsettlingly absent. Search parties comb the waves and beaches, radar scans sweep vast tracts of deep blue, but most often there is nothing to be catalogued, nothing to photograph, nothing for families to claim. The reasons, experts suggest, may be as physical as they are mysterious. The ocean's floor sinks sharply in this region, twisting down into some of the deepest underwater trenches in the Atlantic. Wreckage may be swept quickly into these abyssal zones by unpredictable currents, resting miles beneath the light and forever out of casual reach. At times, hurricanes or tropical storms arrive swiftly, scouring the surface clean, scattering evidence across distances unfathomable. Despite advances in sonar, remote robotics, and aerial surveillance, few lost vessels or airplanes are ever conclusively found. The Triangle's silence is not just atmospheric, it is geographical. The deep absorbs, the current erases, and what little remains vanishes down the steep, unseen slopes. For those left behind, the absence of wreckage is the final unanswerable ache. No closure is offered by the sea, only the infinite, rolling repetition of surf. The process of mourning becomes drawn out, echoing the unsolvable nature of disappearance itself. And so, in the Bermuda Triangle, loss is marked not by discovery, but by emptiness, a unique feature of this mysterious stretch of oceanic world. Over time, disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle have become more than mere entries in maritime or aviation records. They have woven themselves into the cultural memory, stories told in quiet moments, memorialized in small museums, or whispered as cautions by those who live near the water's edge. Communities shaped by these losses develop rituals of remembrance, a wreath cast onto the tide, a ship's bell rung for every soul not returned, candles flickering in the windows when a vessel is long overdue. Over time, these personal acts of hope and grief transform into folklore, their edges softened by repetition and distance. Children growing up in the shadow of the triangle hear these tales as both caution and enchantment. The sea, they learn, is a place of both wonder and warning, capable of giving, but always ready to reclaim. Fishermen bless their boats and pilots, check their compasses twice, lines between precaution and superstition blurring in the humid, salty air each year. Anniversaries of disappearances bring the stories quietly forward again. A local historian retelling the Carolay, Deering's fate, a pilot recalling close calls with unusual fogs, a family gathering to honor a name on a weathered memorial stone by the shore. The Triangle's history is not only found in archives, but in the living rhythm of communities. Its mysteries binding generations, giving sleep and waking life a subtle, shared undertone. In blending true loss with legend, the Bermuda Triangle's legacy endures, not simply as a place of vanishing, but as a vast, unending story in which every new disappearance becomes both tragedy and myth, spiraling gently outward with each incoming tide. As we slip gently from the echoing corridors of lost voices into the inquisitive world of science, the nature of questions about the Bermuda Triangle evolves. The stories, as haunting as they are, become starting points, a map for researchers, oceanographers, and meteorologists eager to explain what seems inexplicable. Let us imagine the ocean at its quietest, a glassy expanse beneath the morning sun, stretching beyond sight or horizon. Yet beneath that smooth surface, remarkable forces are at play, many of which are only now being understood. Scholars first noted that the boundaries of the Bermuda Triangle overlap with a particularly volatile section of the Atlantic. Within this sector, the ocean floor takes a dramatic plunge. The Puerto Rico Trench is the deepest point in the Atlantic, descending over 5 miles to the seabed, with dramatic underwater slopes, canyons, and ridges. Layered currents shift rapidly at these depths, stirring waters in ways that often elude even expert navigation. Meteorologists are also drawn to this zone. The triangle falls within the battleground of hot and cold air masses, encountering each other as the Gulf Stream, a swift, warm current, races northward from the Caribbean. Weather can change here with startling speed. A clear morning can become a whirling storm. Tropical cyclones, unexpected squalls, and sudden waterspouts erupt from otherwise gentle skies. And so science, with patient hands, begins to untangle the knots. Natural explanations surface: unpredictable weather, strong currents, shifting sandbars, submerged reefs. But the triangle's puzzle resists a single solution. For every grounded reason, every charted current and temperature swing, there remains a cautious respect. Reality here is textured, unpredictable, its facts braided with uncertainties as constant as the sea. The investigators, humble before the ocean's sweep, mark a crucial truth, even in the age of satellites. There is much we do not see, cannot predict, and may never fully understand. In this, science and story begin to gently overlap, each reflecting the other's quiet wonder toward the unseen. Now, as you drift upon these murmuring waters, imagine what lies beneath. Not just the darkness and cold, but pockets of something far stranger. Some researchers have looked deep into the sediment just off the Bahama banks and discovered reservoirs of methane gas, trapped beneath layers of clay and silt by immense pressure. These are known as methane hydrates, crystalline structures, delicate and yet potent. Under the right conditions, a small shake, a subtle shift in temperature, or a minor seismic event could release these gases to the surface in a sudden, silent, rushed-up picture, if you will, a ship gliding peacefully across the open water. Below, a vast pocket of methane suddenly ruptures, bubbling up in a broad plume. The water's density changes in an instant, and once buoyant vessels may no longer remain afloat. The records do not speak loudly. There is no explosion or storm to mark the moment. Only a quiet churning, a mysterious drop, and silence where a ship once sailed. Though this theory remains debated, experiments in controlled environments have shown that enough methane released beneath a ship can indeed cause it to lose buoyancy and vanish beneath the waves with alarming speed, often leaving little or no debris behind. In the deep past, entire seafloor regions may have been riddled with these volatile pockets, their danger invisible to generations of mariners, of course. Methane gas does not discriminate. It may just as easily escape harmlessly or dissipate, far below the keel of passing ships. The rarity of such events, and the difficulty in proving a silent, underwater phenomenon, means this is but one strand in the tangled web of explanations. Yet the image lingers, the ocean's calm as a carefully set trap. The chance that one moment of geological restlessness could change everything. In such mysteries, nature remains quietly enigmatic, capable of swallowing history whole and leaving only questions in its wake. Let your mind drift now into the open sea on a moonless night, where only the horizon glimmers softly, and the sound of the ocean is a measured, steady breath. Mariners for centuries have told stories of sudden, towering walls of water, rogue waves that rise from nowhere, silent and swift, dwarfing even the sturdiest vessel. For much of history, these tales were dismissed as the imaginings of weary sailors. But modern science has given them substance. Satellite observations and buoys have recorded these anomalies. Waves reaching heights of 82, even 100 feet, appearing within seconds in seemingly calm conditions. Their formation defies simple causes. Here, in the Bermuda Triangle, the complex interplay of the Gulf Stream's powerful currents, crosswinds, and shifting underwater topography sets the stage for such rare events. Waves can converge, stacking atop one another to form a single, relentless surge, absorbing energy until the crest becomes monstrous. Rising above the ambient swell, imagine being on the deck of a cargo ship. The generator hums below, and the night air is thick with salt. All seems steady until the sea itself rises and crashes atop you. One single, unheralded instant where order vanishes. Survivors of rare encounters describe the sensation not as stormy chaos, but as a sudden blotting out of the world. A moment suspended between before and after. Rogue waves leave little warning and rarely any trace. Wreckage, when found, may be minimal or scattered far beyond the expected search area. For some of the triangle's vanishings, especially in the deep, high-traffic nautical corridors, these merciless walls of water offer a plausible culprit, swift, merciless, and gone as quickly as they appeared. So, even as technology wraps the ocean with sensors and tracking beacons, the possibility persists of forces that are neither malicious nor supernatural, but simply part of the natural rhythm in these restless waters. The ocean, indifferent and powerful, sometimes reclaims its own in moments too brief and bizarre to easily comprehend. Now, as you picture the gentle rolling of the ocean, let your imagination float further into the traditions of navigation, where sailors and pilots trusted their lives to the quiet steadiness of a compass needle. Throughout the long history of the Bermuda Triangle, stories have circulated about magnetic disturbances, compasses behaving strangely, pulling off course, spinning, or simply refusing to point north. These tales have not faded with time. In fact, they have become one of the triangle's central mysteries. The Earth's magnetic field is a vast, fluctuating tapestry, an invisible network that interacts with the molten iron deep beneath our feet, and with the sun's charged winds streaming down from space. In most places, a compass points toward magnetic north with comforting reliability. But there exist certain locations, geomagnetic anomalies, where this compass behaves unexpectedly. Not far off the coast of Florida, for example, the true north and magnetic north occasionally align, creating a rare zone of perfect magnetic neutrality, but also a subtle disorientation for those unaccustomed to these shifts. In the triangle, such effects can be disquieting. Radio logs from vanished flights, including the infamous Flight 19, mention compasses going crazy, and navigators reporting that their instruments no longer match their expectations. Older maritime accounts speak of ships sailing confidently in what felt like the right direction, only to find themselves inexplicably adrift or at strange angles to known stars. Modern scholars note that, while there are natural explanations for minor compass variances, shifts in the Earth's field, local magnetic rocks, or equipment malfunction, the legend persists because the unease it creates feels primal and immediate. Being lost at sea or in the sky, unable to trust your sense of direction, remains one of humanity's most basic fears. The Bermuda Triangle's reputation has made even mundane compass errors seem extraordinary, weaving them into the complex mythos of this region. So, whether these compass quirks are the result of natural circumstances or heightened human perception, the triangle continues to serve as a reminder. Even our best instruments, in the immensity of the ocean, are sometimes subject to forces beyond our easy understanding. As you settle deeper, imagine the subtle shift in the air when weather begins to change. How the breeze picks up, the clouds gather, and the world takes on a new, charged stillness. In the Bermuda Triangle, weather is a restless companion. The region's unique position, straddling tropical and subtropical boundaries, makes it a theater for nature's swiftest performances. Even on a peaceful day, the triangle's atmosphere can transform. A gentle mist may give way to heavy rain, and warm trade winds can suddenly whip into squalls. This is where the warm Gulf Stream, fast-moving, deep, and turbulent, clashes with colder air descending from the North Atlantic. Within minutes, clear skies can dissolve into thunderclouds, visibility drops, and navigation becomes a delicate uncertain dance. One particular phenomenon stands out. Water. These are rotating columns of air and water that stretch down from the base of thunderclouds to the sea's surface. Seen from afar, they appear as twisting, elegant pillars, graceful yet ominous. Some mariners have described encountering multiple waterspouts at once, a corridor of towering, spiraling vapors, each capable of damaging or even overturning a vessel caught in its path. When viewed through the haze of an approaching storm, a waterspout can seem almost supernatural, as if the ocean itself were reaching up to reclaim what sails above. There is also the lurking specter of hurricanes and tropical storms. The Triangle sits within the Atlantic's main hurricane corridor. Each season brings tremendous forces across these waters. Ships and aircraft may find themselves, with little warning, enveloped by howling winds and mountainous seas. Radio silence descends, and traces of wreckage can be swept away by the ceaseless Gulf Stream, erasing evidence and stories alike. Local lore, collected from generations of sailors and aviators, testifies to the unpredictability here. They learn to respect a sky that can change its mood as quickly as the currents below, teaching those who pass through that watchfulness, rather than certainty, is the only protection. Thus, the Bermuda Triangle's reputation for unpredictability is not entirely mysterious, but it endures as a place where weather is both a familiar companion and a sudden, irresistible force, capable of rewriting fate in a matter of moments. Imagine the ocean beneath you, endlessly flowing, propelled by a force as steady as a slow heartbeat. In the Bermuda Triangle, this force is the Gulf Stream, a river within the sea. It begins in the warm, shallow waters of the Gulf of Mexico, rushes around the tip of Florida, and surges northward into the Atlantic on a journey that shapes weather, trade, and the fortunes of all who cross its path. The Gulf Stream's presence brings life and danger in equal measure. For centuries, navigators marveled at its warmth and speed, sometimes up to 5 miles per hour, faster than most rivers on land. To those who knew how to ride it, the current offered a swift passage from the Caribbean to ports further north. But for the unprepared, for shipmasters whose engines failed or whose sails slackened, the Gulf Stream could mean being carried miles off course in just a few hours. Picture a small vessel, caught adrift. The water around it is deceptively gentle, yet its position shifts constantly, pulled silently by the current's relentless march. If a disaster struck, an engine stilled, a hull breached, wreckage would rapidly scatter, swept away and dispersed long before searchers could locate the scene. This explains, in part, why many of the Triangle's disappearances leave so little trace, and why survivors or debris are so rarely found. Even in modern times, the Gulf Stream can outpace the prediction of search and rescue teams. The U.S. Coast Guard and scientific institutions track its eddies and surges, but the current can twist and turn, creating unpredictable pathways, ghost tracks, that confound even the most sophisticated models. The Gulf Stream also brings with it floating hazards, drifting logs, sargassum mats, and random islands of debris that can surprise or damage a vessel's hull. At its boundaries, the water may transition suddenly from deep blue to a startling sapphire, betraying changes in temperature or depth beneath. Through all this, the Gulf Stream is not malevolent, simply constant, impartial, and immense. Its currents have shaped the destinies of explorers, traders, and, sometimes, those who vanished without explanation. In the endless give and take between human aspiration and natural forces, this formidable conveyor belt of the Atlantic reminds us, in the ocean, all things are in motion, and nothing stays anchored for long. As we continue our calm voyage through the currents and tempests of the Bermuda Triangle, let us pause upon the human element, frailty and ingenuity intertwined. The sea, after all, does not judge. It simply presents its challenges. The triangle, with its ever-changing environment, magnifies both the triumphs and the limitations of those who traverse it. Imagine a pilot at the controls of a plane. Mid-century, perhaps, with analog dials, a rhythmic hum of propellers, and a gentle vibration. In the cabin, navigation requires vigilance and adaptation. In the triangle, where distances are vast and landmarks few, reliance on instruments is absolute. A small misreading, a navigational error compounded by mildly faulty equipment or weather interference, may grow into a crisis. The radio calls from Flight 19, for instance, echo this fear. Pilots growing disoriented, believing themselves over the keys but in fact drifting far from land. Seafarers too feel these pressures. Charts are updated, radios scan emergency frequencies, but an unexpected squall, just a brief confusion in the log, can reroute a journey into uncertainty. Compounding this is the fatigue of long hours, the hypnotic rolling of waves, and the stress of maintaining vigilance in an environment that demands it constantly. With the arrival of electronic technology, radar, sonar, and satellite navigation, one might imagine the dangers have faded. But technology, however precise, is still bound by human interpretation and fallibility. Glitches occur, receivers falter, batteries die. The triangle's mystique often grows out of such moments, a crew reassured by their tools, only to find those tools momentarily silent or misleading, sometimes with lasting consequences. Maritime and aviation accident reports, when studied with care, frequently show that no single error is responsible for disaster. Instead, there is a gentle accumulation of small mistakes, an over-reliance on automatic pilots, a missed signal, a misunderstood bearing, all compounded by the ocean's own unpredictable conversation. Here, amidst whispers of supernatural causes, remains the most universal truth, that imperfection, vulnerability, and courage are part of every human adventure. The Bermuda Triangle is not just a story of sea and sky, but of people navigating uncertainty, sometimes bested by it, always part of the ocean's larger story. Now, let us gently drift from the realm of science and human error into the warm currents of myth, where the ordinary brushes against the extraordinary and history dissolves into legend. Few mysteries have tangled themselves so completely with myth as the Bermuda Triangle, for beneath its waters, some believe, lie the remnants of a lost world, Atlantis. The story of Atlantis begins far from these waters. In the writings of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, he described a high civilization that vanished suddenly beneath the waves, doomed by its own hubris. Over the centuries, the legend's details shifted, accumulating new possibilities. By the 20th century, writers and seekers began imagining that the Bermuda Triangle, a region where so much vanishes, might conceal traces of Atlantean technology. Even now, humming beneath the ocean floor, a few tantalizing discoveries have fanned these ancient embers. Divers reported finding geometric formations on the seabed, broad, stone-like structures, mysterious lines and patterns, sometimes dubbed the Bimini Road. Some have suggested these are megaliths, roads, or even the foundations of an advanced city lost to time. Others propose they are natural phenomena, the result of the region's unique geology. Accounts of strange lights emerging from the deep, odd electromagnetic readings, and mechanical disruptions fuel stories that perhaps, somewhere under the silt and coral, forgotten machines or energies linger. Esoteric authors imagine submerged pyramids generating invisible forces, powerful enough to scramble compasses, to pull iron ships into the abyss, or to distort time itself. Scientists remain measured and cautious. No definitive proof has yet tied these underwater anomalies to anything beyond natural process. And yet, the legend endures, often mingling with the triangle's own tales of vanishing. It emerges because the ocean itself invites speculation. The unknown is a canvas upon which every culture has painted dragons, ships, and lost cities. Whether Atlantis is real or imagined matters less than the sense of possibility it evokes. As you listen, drifting deeper into relaxation, consider how these old legends comfort us, not just with mystery, but with the idea that something wondrous might await beneath even the most familiar surface. Let us now sail into the softest, most speculative waters, the realm where the sea becomes a threshold, and time itself seems to ripple and fold. The Bermuda Triangle, with its deep well of disappearances and unexplained returns, has inspired theories that reach beyond the charted world. Among these are the ideas of portals, time slips, and hidden dimensions, possibilities that intrigue and gently unsettle the imagination. Many pilots and sailors have recounted sensations of lost time while traversing the triangle, minutes or even hours unaccounted for, sometimes with clocks and calendars refusing to align. There are stories, quietly marked in logbooks or whispered on docks, of aircraft and vessels reappearing long after hope was surrendered, their equipment old but largely unharmed, and their crews confused by the passage of time. Some theorists suggest that, here, space and time may become fluid, permitting brief windows where travelers slip, unknowingly, across the thresholds of physics. Tales abound of electronic fog, a strange grey mist enveloping ships or planes, accompanied by the malfunction of all navigation devices and an eerie sense of stillness. Those who emerge from such mists often describe a profound disorientation, as if returning from somewhere just outside of waking reality. Others see the triangle as a crossing place for ley lines or geophysical singularities, energy currents said to connect powerful sites across the Earth. If such lines converge beneath these waters, they could, in theory, create unstable pockets where reality briefly warps. In popular fiction and speculative circles, these musings have blossomed into stories of hidden gateways, alternate planets, or temporary distortions in gravity and magnetism. Though science, quiet and methodical, finds little physical evidence for these ideas, their allure remains. The ocean, ancient and unknowable, lends itself to these possibilities, offering a space where the boundaries between reality and fantasy shimmer. As you listen, half adrift between curiosity and the gentle pull of sleep, consider that not all mysteries ask for answers. Some simply invite us to dream. As our exploration of the Bermuda Triangle's mysteries draws near its crescendo, we arrive at a gentler, subtler notion, one that blurs the line between science and spirituality. Beyond the visible and the measurable, some believe the triangle is a site of natural energy vortices, swirling, unseen spirals where electromagnetic, gravitational, and perhaps even psychic energies gather and flow. This theory suggests the triangle sits on a confluence of these subtle energies, forming what some call an Earth power spot. Here, The magnetic field may wax and wane, currents and winds may become erratic and sensitive instruments. Compass, radio, electronic gauge, developed behaviors that are difficult to explain and even harder to repeat under laboratory conditions. A few researchers point to patterns found in the triangle's lost vessels. Occasional reports of a peaceful malaise, anomalous lights shimmering just below the surface, or a deep, inexplicable calmness even at moments of peril. Such phenomena are not unique to the Bermuda Triangle. Other locations, like the Dragon's Triangle near Japan or the Devil's Sea in the Pacific, also nurture legends of mysterious disappearances, strange fogs, and altered perceptions, often at the intersection of ocean currents, tectonic boundaries, and magnetic anomalies. It is in these subtle forces that myth converges with our deepest longing for explanation, a desire to believe that there is more to the world than what our senses can touch. Even if these energy vortices exist only in the imagination, their persistence in our stories is telling. The ocean is an endless canvas for such speculation, offering us both beauty and mystery in each rolling tide. So, as you rest among these thoughts, let the gentle rhythm of the waves remind you that not all forces shaping our destinies are visible or easily measured. Some move quietly within the land, the water, and perhaps the mind, whispering at the edge of what we know. With this gentle drift through science and legend, we transition to our final segment, consideration of what truly separates knowledge from myth, and where, beneath the surface, fact and fable begin to mingle. As we welcome the final current of our journey, let us gently sift through the mosaic of evidence, tales, and theories that form the story of the Bermuda Triangle. The allure of mystery is powerful, but so is the quiet accumulation of facts. Patient records kept by coast guards, oceanographers, and investigators over the years. We begin with the sheer volume of traffic that passes through these waters. The shipping lanes linking Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico are some of the busiest in the world, used by everyone from mariners of old to the most advanced cargo ships and passenger jets today. With such frequency, incidents, mechanical failures, navigational errors, even simple misfortune are statistically more likely to occur. The odds, it seems, are quietly at play beneath the drama. Careful studies, from organizations like the United States Coast Guard and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, reveal that the rate of disappearances within the Triangle is no higher than in any comparably traveled stretch of ocean. Investigations almost always find earthly causes: sudden storms, human mistakes, mechanical breakdowns, or swift currents erasing the evidence. In some cases, the stories that once captivated the world, a vanished yacht or silent airplane, eventually resolve through new technology, underwater surveys, or unexpected finds, and yet, the line between myth and fact blurs easily. Many early reports relied on incomplete data, second-hand stories, or exaggerations that, through repetition, grew more dramatic than the truth. For each vanished vessel, dozens more made safe passage anonymously, their uneventful journeys forgotten. As soon as they ended, the mystery persists, in part because we tend to remember what is extraordinary and gently set aside what is routine. Still, it is not the intention here to quell the sense of wonder, but to invite a measured curiosity. In the Bermuda Triangle, history and legend bob together upon the waves. Facts anchor our understanding, but the eye is always drawn to the horizon, where certainty and possibility gently merge, urging us onward, calmly questioning, and content to not always find an answer. As we drift deeper into the calm of night, let us turn to the minds who have devoted themselves to untying the knots of this mystery. The skeptics and scientists whose gentle persistence has brought clarity to so many tales. They approach the legend of the Bermuda Triangle with careful tools, critical analysis, statistical reasoning, and a steady regard for what can be measured and recorded. These investigators begin by re-evaluating the so-called unsolvable disappearances. In quiet offices filled with charts and radio logs, they examine the data. Often, patterns emerge. Engine failures during peak hurricane season, navigational errors when visibility was poor, or ships reported lost in storms later found run aground far from the search area. Many vanishings, thought at first to be instantaneous and inexplicable, are now understood as a series of cascading mishaps, understandable once the fog of mystery is lifted. Even the most iconic cases, Flight 19 for example, have yielded to this patient scrutiny. The confusion in the pilot's voices, the divergence of compasses, and the fateful directional errors have been replicated in flight simulators, revealing that simple uncertainty compounded by fatigue can make the familiar ocean quickly seem vast and alien. The skeptics remind us that confirmation bias, our tendency to see patterns where none exist, plays a role in sustaining the triangle's legend. When rare storms or freak waves strike elsewhere, they are accepted as fate. Here, they become evidence of something supernatural. The mind, so adept at weaving stories, sometimes yokes coincidence to meaning and chance to destiny. But this approach does not strip away all the enchantment. It simply asks us to consider how the great unknown, so easy to mythologize, is also a place shaped by the same physics, weather, and chance as the rest of the world. The Bermuda Triangle, in their eyes, is remarkable not because of what cannot be explained, but because of how the stories themselves have grown, multiplied, and endured. So we find, beneath the surface, a gentle reminder. Critical thinking and open wonder can coexist, each enriching the other, fostering a deeper respect for the world and its unresolved mysteries. Let us now set our bearings toward the enduring vessel of human imagination, the story. Long before satellite navigation or forensic dive teams, people explained the inexplicable with tales passed softly from mouth to ear, growing each time they were shared. In the Bermuda Triangle, more than perhaps anywhere else in the Atlantic, these stories have entwined themselves with the facts, each strengthening the other's pull. When we examine the triangle's legend, we find it simmering quietly through the first half of the 20th century. Occasional vanishings in newspapers, local rumors among sailors, terse dots on maritime logs. It was only in the 1960s and 1970s that the legend truly flourished, echoed by best-selling books, magazine features, and later, television specials. Charles Berlitz's influential, yet questionable, research in the Bermuda Triangle stirred the public's curiosity, framing the area as an unsolvable puzzle. Suddenly, old accounts were reimagined, and new ones reframed in light of an enigmatic, dangerous zone. The structure of the mystery itself, its purposeful vagueness, the open sea as theater, invites the mind to wander. Gaps in evidence become spaces for wonder. Each unexplained event finds a seat in a growing pantheon of enigmas, and every strange tale encourages listeners and readers to look for something just beyond what's documented. Myths also soothe and warn in the face of the ocean's indifference. Stories of ship-eating vortices and labyrinthian fogs give shape to anxiety. They offer a sense of control. If the sea is magical, perhaps there are rules to protect ourselves. If the disappearances are more than accidents, they can be understood, and therefore less frightening. Yet, the creative rhythm of myth is not just cautionary. It is also generative and sustaining. It draws generations into curiosity and keeps the history of these waters alive in ways that the ordinary passage of ships or planes could never do. In this way, the Bermuda Triangle remains an open book, its chapters rewritten anew with every retelling, offering gentle fascination long after other mysteries have faded into the background. Now let us listen, with the quiet patience of an attentive night, to the voices of those who have sailed or flown through the Bermuda Triangle and returned to remember. For beyond the calculations and skepticism, there endures a powerful reverence for the testimony of those who have seen and felt something unusual, even if science cannot fully explain it. Pilots have described flying through sudden, dense clouds that seemed to appear from nowhere. The landscape vanishing into an endless grey, compasses spinning senselessly, and a sensation of both hurried time and endless suspension. Mariners relate stories of abrupt calms, only to be followed by a wall of wind or a flash of inexplicable electric light upon the water. Some, after enduring these episodes, found their equipment untouched, but their memories tinged with uncertainty. A dreamlike quality haunting even the most seasoned professionals. Such accounts often resist easy categorization, while some can later be traced to atmospheric phenomena, electrical disturbances, or even the psychology of fatigue. Others remain delicately poised between memory and myth. The witness's experience is always real to them, etched by adrenaline, colored by awe, and shared with a mixture of pride and humility. Locals, too, honor these stories. In the Caribbean islands and along Florida's coast, tales of the triangle pass quietly through families. Advice offered over porches and at marinas, told in the measured voice of lived reality. Some warn newcomers to trust their instincts, to respect the swift changes in weather and current, to be wary not of the legend itself, but of the unpredictability it represents. Across decades, the voices of witnesses shape the narrative's edges. These are not always tales of terror. Many are, instead, meditations on the ocean's beauty, its inscrutable moods, and the humility demanded by its mysteries. The witness binds myth to reality, weaving a fabric where both find room to coexist. In the glow of their recollections, we find neither proof nor dismissal, only a gentle encouragement to look, to wonder, and to pass on the stories they have bequeathed. As we continue along the gentle current of knowledge and legend, consider those moments when the past lifts itself, piece by piece, from the ocean's embrace. The search for answers does not always end in mystery, as advanced technology has illuminated the deeps. Some of the triangle's secrets have come quietly to light. Modern search and rescue operations employ sonar, remote approach vehicles, and satellites, tools that offer glimpses into regions once utterly inaccessible, where light dims and silence seems eternal. Occasionally, these efforts yield the discovery of a wreck long thought lost, a sunken freighter, an aircraft's twisted frame, or a scattering of cargo gently fused with the sand and silt of the seabed. These finds are rarely dramatic or even conclusive. More often, they are wordless relics. Broken compasses, waterlogged papers, holes overtaken by coral. Yet, for those left behind, there is comfort in the tangible, a truth, however incomplete or mundane, to anchor grief and satisfy the ache of wandering. Each recovery is a quiet reclamation of memory, of certainty, of dignity for lives and stories, almost erased. In some cases, the cause of loss reveals itself without romance: metal fatigue, unnoticed leaks, crew errors, or evidence of a sudden storm. Other times, the why remains elusive, the past refusing to yield more than partial answers. But every rediscovered ship or aircraft adds a gentle refrain to the narrative, that with time, patience, and humility, some unknowns become known. These recoveries do not dispel the mystery entirely. Instead, they add texture, reminding us that, in the wide sweep of history, many disappearances may one day be explained, while others linger in the deep as invitations to further searching. The Bermuda Triangle, then, becomes not only an emblem of enigma, but also a testament to what patient, caring curiosity can reveal, one relic, one answer, one story at a time. As our journey carries us toward the quieter edges of the Bermuda Triangle, it becomes useful to invite the comfort of numbers and the gentle reminders statistics offer against the swelling tides of myth. The region defined by this famous triangle is, in reality, simply too busy, too trafficked, for mystery not to flourish. When we pause to consider how many vessels, planes, and people cross these waters each year, a picture of immense scale unfolds. Shipping records and flight logs tell us that, at any given moment, dozens, sometimes hundreds, of craft are engaged in commerce, leisure, or passage between continents. This volume, paired with fickle weather and changeable seas, guarantees that accidents or disappearances will occur, just as they do in every busy corner of the globe. Insurance companies and maritime agencies calculate risk here as they do elsewhere, sometimes even lower when adjusted for the region's immense flow. Yet, something curious happens with the human mind. We are, by nature, storytellers who remember the unusual, the rare and extraordinary stick, echoing in the imagination far longer than the millions of uneventful journeys that pass without note. When the rare occurs alongside the unexplained, our pattern-seeking instinct quietly assembles a narrative, an area possessed of more misfortune than could possibly be attributed to chance. Studies comparing the Bermuda Triangle to other major shipping routes consistently find that the numbers are ordinary. Disappearances and accidents trace themselves not to supernatural anomalies, but to the expected complications of travel in challenging environments. Yet the legend keeps its gentle hold, partly because it is so much more evocative than the reality. Of a silent mechanical failure, an unreported squall, or a navigational slip missed in hindsight, these figures do not diminish the awe of the ocean. They simply offer context. Against the vast, indifferent sea, our careful notations and tallies become another way to seek meaning. They reassure us that, while mystery attracts, normalcy is the quiet rule, and only rarely does chance spiral into legend. As our understanding broadens, let's let the mind drift gently across the world's great oceans. The Bermuda Triangle is not alone in its reputation, nor unique in the tales spun around its waters. There are other corners of the globe where the unseen pulls at mariners and aviators, where the line between the explainable and the enchanted is just as thin. Off Japan's coast lies the Devil's Sea, or Dragon's Triangle, another maritime zone whispered about for generations. Here too, stories bloom. Ships are said to vanish, compasses are rumored to falter, and strange weather clouds the sky. Like the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea sits on volatile undersea geology, subject to seismic shifts and methane bursts. Its legends draw similar conclusions, ascribing the vanished to supernatural causes or ancient ruins hiding beneath. The waves in the Arctic. Explorers have long described spots where navigation is unreliable, where magnetic north seems to wander with the will of the sky. In the Indian Ocean, SC Agulhas Current. Ships have struggled with freak waves and mysterious disappearances, sometimes later explained, sometimes forever unsolved. In each place, local lore collects around uncertainty. Ghost ships vanishing, islands, great sea monsters. The pattern repeats, a gentle reassurance that the ocean everywhere is rich with places that spark story and speculation. Scientists, gathering such tales, suggest that our shared human reaction to the unexplained threads through every culture. Enigmatic places inspire not only caution, but also curiosity and creativity. Sometimes the danger is mundane, strong currents, uncharted reefs. Sometimes it is the boundless scope of possibility, shaped by imagination and the old songs of the deep. Thus, when we compare the Bermuda Triangle to its sister mysteries around the world, we find not a singular curse, but a rhythm, a universal, almost comforting reminder that to travel the ocean is to touch the edge of what can be known. In every triangle, in every shadow, the sea holds up a mirror to our timeless yearning for answers, and to our acceptance that some answers may always stay just out of reach. As the currents of history and myth swirl together, let us linger on the gentle shore of imagination, where the Bermuda Triangle lives not only as a real place, but as a canvas for modern fears, hopes, and curiosity. Over decades, this region has drifted beyond maps and maritime logs, taking up residence in the stories, films, art, and even music that color our shared culture. From early pulp magazines to big-budget Hollywood thrillers, the Triangle is depicted as a playground for the extraordinary. Ships emerge through swirling fog, aircraft are suspended in time, and underwater cities glow faintly beneath the waves. Books like Charles Berlitz's The Bermuda Triangle, television documentaries, and countless adventure novels have ensured that new generations discover and reshape the myth anew. The legend is ever refreshed, a setting for lost civilizations, secret government projects, or gateways to other worlds. This fascination is not bound by age or medium. For children, the Triangle inspires play and imaginative storytelling. Constructed from plastic boats in bathtubs or traced in sand at the shoreline. For adults, it is a place for philosophical musing, a metaphor for life's uncertainties, a symbol of how even certainty can dissolve in the face of the unknown. Pop culture tropes have, in turn, influenced perception. News stories, sometimes, invoke the Triangle when an accident occurs within its boundaries, even when circumstances are thoroughly mundane. Cartoons parody it, musicians write of its melancholy allure. Over time, these representations gently blur the line between the legend and the reality, each shaping the other in a dance of perpetual creativity. Yet, beneath these flights of fancy, the core of the Triangle's popular appeal endures. It represents the sea as threshold, between order and chaos, explanation and wonder. The myth, by existing, provides a space to explore anxiety, to process loss, and to feel, in safety, the thrill of the mysterious dot. Thus, in the hush of late hours, with the world winding toward sleep, we are reminded of the Bermuda Triangle's most enduring gift, its invitation to imagine, to question, and to find fascination even where the facts are simple and the waters, for now, are calm. As the ocean world outside quiets and the pulse of myth slows, we return gently to the present, where satellites trace every vessel and planes leave arcing contrails, faint but certain, over waters once deemed untamable. Today, the Bermuda Triangle is passed daily by the hurried rhythms of global commerce, tourism, and recreation, its boundaries now more a story than a line of warning. Modern ships glide over waves guided not just by chronometer and compass, but by constellations of satellites above. Commercial flights between Miami and San Juan trace perfect arcs, watched by air traffic controllers, their radios humming with clear and constant voices. The U.S. Coast Guard maintains vigilant oversight here, as do military and civilian rescue operations, trained to act swiftly at the faintest echo of distress. For travelers who book a cruise or fly into island airports, the triangle now means turquoise water alive with sun, coral reefs rising in delicate gardens, and island communities thriving along old shipping lanes. Guides explain the legends with a smile, aware that the question, "Is it true?" is part of every journey, every gentle lapping tide at the port. Accidents still occur, as they do everywhere. Sea and sky meet human ambition, but advances in forecasting storms, mapping the seabed, and tracing emergency signals have made these waters safer and mysteries fewer with each passing year. Still, a sense of wonder lingers. On moonlit crossings, the vastness and silent authority of the ocean are palpable. Passengers and crew sometimes pause, gazing into starlit darkness, imagining all who have sailed before and all the stories left behind. Thus, the Bermuda Triangle remains, if not a peril, then an enduring invitation to marvel at nature's scale, to ponder the soft, persistent mystery of the unknown, and to experience, if only for a moment, the humility that the open sea bestows. And now, as night deepens outside and the tide of our exploration comes quietly ashore, let us rest a moment in the space the Bermuda Triangle occupies, not only in geography, but in the collective heart and mind. Here, myth and truth, science and wonder, drift side by side on perpetual tides. The triangle has become as much a state of imagination as a place on the map, a gentle riddle, never fully solved, but always softly inviting us to return. This enduring mystery is not diminished by explanation. Instead, every vanished ship found, every meteorological pattern revealed, and each tangled navigational tale adds a thread to the tapestry, an ever-growing conversation between the seen and the unseen. Fact, here, does not vanquish legend, but cradles it. Numbers and data pin our attention to the probable, but the improbable lingers, undisturbed, at the ragged edges of story. For some, the Bermuda Triangle is a cautionary tale about respecting nature's unpredictability. For others, it is a treasure chest of suggestion, fueling art and adventure. And for many, in quiet hours, it remains a lullaby, an oceanic hum at the threshold of sleep, hinting that the world, however mapped and measured, is still filled with places where certainty dissolves into wonder. So let this final drift reassure and inspire. The mystery remains not because facts are hidden, but because the dance between knowledge and imagination is itself gentle, eternal, and necessary. As you close your eyes, imagine the sea at midnight, cool, endless, quietly whispering its secrets just out of reach. And now, let us slowly draw the covers of story and history up around us, content in the knowledge that not every question needs an answer. Sometimes, the question itself is enough. As our journey through these storied waters draws to a close, Allow yourself to drift with the rhythm of ancient tides, a rhythm that has rocked generations to sleep. The tales of the Bermuda Triangle, with all their quiet intrigue and persistent questions, remain afloat in the spaces where the known world softens into dreams. Tonight, as you rest, know that you are sharing in a centuries-old tradition, letting the unknown cradle your thoughts, while the security of home cradles your form. Consider for a moment how much humanity has uncovered about the deep satellite. Images and sonar maps, black boxes recovered from the abyss, the gentle progress of science steadily filling in the blanks. The Atlantic now seems less wild, less unknowable, and yet the mystery endures. It lies not only beneath unbroken waves or in fog-laced stories, but in the way our hearts lift at the unexplained, and our minds linger gently on what just might be. Our ancestors faced the open water with courage, their hopes tethered to flimsy vessels and flickering compasses. Each crossing was an act of faith, a negotiation with the unknown. Today, with our maps and machines, we are safer, but the yearning for mystery, soft, unhurried, and quietly persistent, travels with us still. Let the last sounds of the sea lull you to calm. A distant buoy bell, the shifting of wind in unseen sails, the infinite patience of the waves. The stories of the triangle, old and new, have always been more lullaby than warning, more gentle invitation than threat. They remind us that a peaceful sleep comes easiest when we accept a little uncertainty, honoring the magic at the world's edge. Tonight you are safe and warm, far from restless oceans and vanishing points. Let your mind float free, unburdened by certainty, content to wonder and to dream. For in every question lingering unanswered, there is room for possibility, and the quiet hush in which, at last, restful sleep can find you. May you drift softly, carried by the story's tide, until morning arrives, quiet, certain. A new good night from the crossroads of sea, legend, and gentle understanding. Sleep gently, and let curiosity be your anchor in the calm, endless night.